You're listening to Cinema Snarks. I'm Larry,
And I'm Ren.
and we are about to tell you how we really feel. And today, we're telling you how we really feel about the latest Marvel film, Black Widow.
The long, not
Finally.
really awaited, but definitely way too late edition.
Yes, well, I'm glad we're on the same page starting off on that. So, after at least a decade of fans wanting a Black Widow movie, right after Iron Man 2, everyone is like, whoa, we love this woman. Who is she? We want more. Give us a Black Widow solo movie. And here we are all this time later, and we finally got one.
Finally.
But taking place after the events of Captain America Civil War, Natasha Romanoff finds herself on the run from the US government when she has broken the Sokovian Accords. And this path takes her on a new journey that has her past meet up with her present to help determine all of the world's future. So you saw this last night, is that correct?
I did.
Okay. Did you
You
see it
saw
in
it
any special
Thursday, right?
format, or did you see it in just a
No, just the normal movie theater
normal movie
format.
theaters?
We
Okay.
ate while we did it. We did it at the fancy AMC with the food at the mall.
Oh, at the Cherry
Mhm.
Creek Mall?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Fooded over there. It was a very nice date night.
Well, I've seen it twice now. So I saw it early and then I went on a Thursday night. I saw it on IMAX because they were giving out free Black Widow comic books. So if you saw it in IMAX, so I had to see it in the IMAX format.
Gotta get you free swag. I've never
Always,
met
I am that
anyone,
nerd.
but okay, so this is places where me and Larry like deeply diverge. If there's a free thing, Larry's gonna get in line for it and he's gonna wait and he is gonna get his free thing. Me, I do not care enough about a free thing to sit in line and wait. No, I'm like,
Never.
this is
Yeah,
a
no.
deep divide between me and Larry. Free
Yeah.
pizza day. I'm like, no, I'm not waiting in a 45-minute line
I
to get a
mean,
slice of Little Caesars pizza.
yeah.
I can buy a whole pizza for
Yes, I
$5.
mean,
Not today. No, no, no.
thankfully, this one did not provide a line. Just you have to see it in the
Oh,
more expensive format, naturally.
that's fair.
But the first screening was in just a typical theater, so had to diversify the viewings as well with that
So really,
IMAX.
really big and small. I
Yeah.
thought like a little too close to the screen, which is almost like
Oh.
IMAX.
Well, that's good because yeah, my IMAX screening was pretty packed.
Really.
So how was your screening when you went?
I think it was packed. So I bought tickets on Wednesday, like afternoon,
Okay.
and half of it was already
So
their
yeah,
tickets were
you were in
already
that
bought.
front section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I managed to. We were like in the row right before the full on front section, so it
Yeah. Oh,
wasn't
okay.
the worst it could have been. So I was
Yes.
glad. I was glad I was a Stubbs member at that point in time to get my
Oh yeah. I forget
preemptively.
that you're now AMC
I am. I
stuff.
finally upgraded. I don't have the like see three movies a week or whatever deal,
Yeah.
but I have the like paid membership, which looks like $15. I'm like, yeah, to not have any like fees to get my tickets ahead of time because people are crazy. They will buy their tickets way ahead of
Yeah.
time. I don't want to deal with that
No.
business. As we've just gone over, I don't want to wait in a line. I don't want to like deal with that with these
Yeah.
diehards. They're too much for me.
And the other good thing with AMC, when you do have like a stubs or something, is that if you have to cancel for any reason, they can refund your ticket, but they don't refund you that processing fee if you buy it online. So you
Ah,
have no processing fee. So you do get like a full refund from AMC if you need to. So
sponsored by AMC Subs.
there
No,
you go.
we don't have a sponsorship AMC, so maybe
But I
if one of
mean,
you hears this at some point in time, you consider a
yeah,
sponsorship
I'm an
deal for
A-list
it.
member and I love my A-list membership. So there you go. AMC, come at us. We are open and ready.
We are entirely viable.
We are ready. But this is the 24th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It has been delayed for well over a year at this point, not all due to regular circumstances. COVID, obviously, played a part in the big delays for Black Widow. But it was meant to be kind of the next new film of Phase 4.
So
Though in the timeline, it takes place smack dab in the middle of
was
Phase
it
3.
supposed to come out before Scarlet Witch and all the other TV series on Disney
Yes.
Plus?
Yes.
Okay.
So
That makes a little bit more sense
Yeah.
to me, because it feels like this should have, it definitely feels like this should have happened before all these series that are kind of like, they're like bridges into the next
And this one
phase,
has
that's what they call it.
a connection. I don't know that she's a bridge, but it does have a connection to the future. The big thing, so the people argue about is that Ike Perlmutter is trash and did not want diversity in the films and blocked Marvel Studios. He was like the head of Marvel comic books, Marvel properties, and he did not want those type of films. So I understand, at least up until Civil War, why Black Widow didn't happen, why we didn't get a Black Widow movie right after Iron Man 2 or in those early phases, because he was blocking it.
This guy was specifically opposed to a lady superhero film.
Yes.
What?
Specifically opposed. He's trash.
What
He did a lot of trash. But then we got past him. And 2016, I believe, is when Perlmutter was out. And that's when we started getting immediately, we got like Black Panther announcement, the Captain Marvel announcement. Like we started getting these announcements immediately.
Got it.
And still no Black Widow announcement. This movie is still about 5 years too late. Like even taking all of that into consideration, it should have been released at least prior to Avengers Infinity War. At the very least, needed to be released before Avengers Endgame. You know, the movie she literally dies in.
Yeah. So I could care that she died in Endgame. Oh, sorry, spoilers. If you haven't seen any of the Marvel movies, the first decade's worth of Marvel movies, well, we just ruined it for you.
If you haven't seen, if you're one of the like 5 people on planet Earth who has not watched Avengers Endgame, I'm very sorry we just spoiled a major plot point. But I'm going to give a warning now.
The time frame.
We'll put a warning in here now as well. We are going to be talking about spoilers with Black Widow, so be prepared there, and then we'll get into our ranking. So hopefully you have watched Black Widow. This will be going up at the very end of its opening weekend, so fingers crossed, or hopefully you don't care about spoilers, because spoiler alert, Black Widow doesn't die in this film because she has to be alive to go on to the movies that take place after this, in which she does die. So
for me, immediately lowers all the stakes just across the board. I'm like, oh, well, I know this character is going to be fine.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Any of the danger scenarios, like these don't matter at all. Yeah. So
what were your overall thoughts on the film then?
Oh, I was going to ask you first because it seemed like you didn't like it at all. But I liked it medium.
I liked it medium as well. So I'm frustrated by it, but part of the frustration comes from I liked a lot in there. I think there was some really good stuff in there.
Totally.
It just is frustrating.
There's also just a lot of things that are like not there that are weird. So let's start with the things that we liked. I really like the concept. Okay, so first of all, I thought it was going to be like a spy type of thriller thing, and it was like a weird family dramedy comedy thing, which I wasn't like upset about, but it was definitely not what I was expecting. And I do love the idea. I love this concept of an ex-Soviet villain nemesis of Captain America who has these daughters, one of which who becomes like a good guy Avenger. I liked that concept overall, and also that character is probably one of the best parts of the movie. He's your comedic relief, and he does a very good job of being comedic relief. I do think Florence Pugh's character was actually my favorite part of the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Why did you not like her at all?
I love her. Okay,
good.
I'm just happy.
No, I know why you think I don't like Florence Pugh. I've decided I really like Florence Pugh because I've yet to see anything where I wasn't like, she's awesome.
You love all of her movies.
We get confused because I have a like generalized anxiety and like frustration at the weird proportion of the A-list actor base that has suddenly turned into British people. Not that I'm not a xenophobe. I married a half British man. I am my mother-in-law is British. I like love British people. Think they're fantastic. It's just a weird, as an American actor type person who's been involved in it, it just feels unfair. Anyways, that was my sidebar on Florence Pugh, but which I think you thought I initially disliked because I am opposed to the.
Yeah, you loved Little Women. You loved Midsummer.
Yeah. So I just think Florence Pugh's does an amazing job of making me like every single character that she plays. I've yet to see her play a character that I.
You hate her character in Little Women generally.
I normally hate it. I have seen all the other Little Women's. I used to watch Little Women all the time when I was a kid, or like original version, and hated Amy. She sucks. If anybody has ever read or watched she's terrible. She's a total little asshole, and she's a whiny. She gets everything at the end, and it's bullshit. But Florence Pugh really made her weirdly likable for me, and like she still has a lot of like problems, and there's other issues with like she's like they're all too old. She's way too old for that Amy character in the beginning, and she makes
when
sense
they
afterwards.
put her like literally in the schoolhouse with actual 12-year-olds, that was a bit much.
That was weird,
but that's a Greta Gerwig decision. So
it's a separate thing. But yeah, so she does a really good job, and I think this character, I liked this character a lot more than I've liked any other women, I think, in the Marvel universe overall. I think, except
Natasha.
for what?
Including Natasha.
Oh, I don't care about Natasha at all. Like, I still don't care. I still don't care about Natasha Romanoff at all. I watched an entire movie about her, and I still don't care about her at all. Because this movie wasn't about her. It was like about her. It was about a thing that happened to her, sort of. They didn't really get into her backstory that much. But yeah, I still don't care about her. I was about to say Zuri. I also love Zuri. She might be tied at this point because she's also awesome. But like, I just loved her sense of humor. I think Florence Pugh brought this really fun sibling bickery sort of loving thing to the role, and I really enjoyed. Oh my god, the poses thing was so funny.
Yeah, that was like the best.
Filled me.
I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh,
it's a great running joke to have.
And then when she does it at the end, it was like,
and it's such a funny, like such a poser, and it's just such a funny thing. It's a good word. It's a funny little double entendre. Yeah. I love that. I love the like fat old superhero that's he's fat and old, but he's still a superhero. He's still super strong.
Till the day he dies.
I love him old and like reliving his glory days. This weird thing where he's like, does Captain America talk about me? Like,
no.
I just enjoyed his character overall. Rachel Weisz's character was a little bit less well-formed. I love her normally, but
she was so underutilized, I feel. I mean, Marvel has that problem with iconic, amazing actors. Yeah. They do this a lot to them. Just fantastic talents, and they just don't really do anything with them.
Like we were just talking about in Loki, they had Richard E. Grant as
I was like, at the very least, he gave us like a big moment that we loved. But keep him.
I was like back at some point, maybe.
For a classic Loki, Kid Loki, Gator Loki, like at least a special. Let us have a special with those three characters.
It just stresses me out because they do a really good job of not repeating actors. So I'm just like, now you've used that one. Now he can't be anything else. Now he can't be some awesome villain at some point in the future because you've used him. It's over now. He can make the voice of something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they do this all the time. I will say both Florence, I thought she was great in the film, but Florence, and even worse, Rachel Weisz, I don't know about those accents.
I was actually thinking with Florence Pugh, I was wondering if her accent is going to end up going the way of Elizabeth Olsen's accent, where it just like sort of gradually disappears. And I don't understand the choice really, because I guess
Well, because they
Because
show
Natasha
other,
doesn't have
yeah,
a
and they show
accent
other
at all.
widows in this movie who don't have accents. So
Yes,
they have them talk, and it's like, oh, they didn't pick up a Russian accent. We
yeah,
saw you at the beginning of the film in Ohio.
children
You
don't
didn't
have,
have an accent.
yes,
So why did you develop this weird, bad accent
I
later on?
do not understand. There does not seem to be a clear
No.
choice or distinction on these
And
accent
then
things.
Rachel, on top of the accent, Rachel was doing like a lisp almost, like she was kind of adding a lisp to her accent. It was very strange how she spoke in
Also,
this film.
maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like in the beginning they didn't have accents when they were like
Well,
supposed
they
to be this
didn't, but then when
Ohio.
they like sidebarred, they did. So like their front of David Harbour and Rachel Weisz's character had
I'm
American
like
type of
rubbing,
accents.
I'm rubbing my temples because I thought it was one of my pet peeves in films when they sidebar people that presumably speak a foreign language. They have them talk in an accent. What? No, they would speak to each other in Russian and then just subtitle it for me. So I
Yes.
understand
I mean, yes.
immediately, oh, these are Russian spies,
No,
which I
they
already
did.
kind of
They still
knew.
spoke English and just with an accent.
Okay.
So there you go.
So that's one thing that was weird. So those, I think those are my
Especially
favorite
because
things.
it's not clear if those kids know Russian either. So if you don't want your kids to know what you're talking about, you speak the other language you
Yeah.
two know and they don't.
Well, it does. It does by the end seem that she does speak Russian, right?
She
Because she
does,
yells a
but
thing at the end.
we don't know at the beginning if she did. Oh no, she
Yeah,
does. The little
she
girl
does.
does
She does
because
at the end
she
when she
does and
pulls out the
protects her.
gun,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So she does speak Russian. I don't know
So
about the
okay,
little girl, but
so I think I've talked about all the things that I liked. I thought it
wait,
was
let me see.
funny. I was entertained.
I think most of the action is fun.
Yeah, it's
I
actually
generally
fun.
like Natasha's fighting style. So the way that they introduce Natasha with that like aerobatic flipping type of fighting, I've always thought it looks really cool on screen. I was glad to see it in this film. From it seems like they made that the widow type of fighting style
Mhm.
in general. I thought it looked cool. I thought most of the action was fun. The villain, but this is a Marvel film, so
Are you talking about Taskmaster, or are you talking
yeah, I
about
mean Taskmaster
the
and him and her father.
what's his name? What is it they call him? The
He has an actual
Draco.
name, Drakov. Yeah, there you go,
Draco.
Drakov. There's a Russian name, Ren, obviously.
Draco.
Drakov.
But he also has a
Um,
Russian accent. Doesn't have a Russian accent. I don't remember.
yeah, the accents were a hot mess, and they really should have just been
Hot
like, you know
mess.
what? No. And the same thing with Elizabeth Olsen. They tried with her too, and they're like, you know what? Actually, cut it. This is not. You don't need that accent. We're done.
Just very strange. Very
Yeah,
strange.
Marvel, really superhero movies, because this goes all the way back to Halle Berry and the first X-Men trying to do this like African accent, but it went in and out the entire movie. So the second movie, they just dropped it altogether because they're like, oh, Halle, girl, this ain't working. Cut the
Just cut
African
it.
accent. Like, it's bad. Hopefully they do that
This is
with
the nice thing about
Yelena.
doing theater is you do a bunch of rehearsals ahead of time. And so before you do a whole show, you can say, I'm sorry, the accent isn't working. Just cut it. We're
Yeah.
not going to do it. And then no audience has to sit there confused about why they haven't. Do they have an accent? Is
Yeah.
it what happened to their accent? And that's dumb. That's ridiculous. You need to make a choice from the very beginning
Just don't do it.
so that you're not confusing your audience. Like, I don't want to be distracted by friggin'
Yeah.
stupid ass accents where I'm like, are they Russian? Are they not?
Yeah.
Were they pretending to not?
I
don't
guess
understand
at the
why.
very least, Florence Pugh was able to act through the accent. At least she
Yeah.
was able to still connect. She
Yeah.
still was able to like make us like her a lot
Yeah.
and put the accent to the side.
Yeah.
It
Her
didn't
accent
like
was great.
derail her performance.
Yeah,
Thank
her
goodness.
her accent was also good. It was like consistent throughout, so I didn't have to. I didn't worry about that one. It just like doesn't make sense
Just, yeah, it was too
overall
bad.
in the context of it because Natasha has never had a Russian accent.
Yeah, they
So
never tried.
okay, on top of
So wait, did you like
did
the
we cover
beginning?
everything we liked
Did you
about
like
this
the
movie?
opening?
What was the opening?
So we start with the little kid stuff, but then they go into like the really like dark stuff for a minute. They like go maybe the darkest Marvel has ever went, and I think it's because we're dealing with something very similar to real world issues that take place, little girl trafficking, not to make them super spies, but to sell them into whatever trade you're looking to sell them into in real world.
Here are my thoughts on the intro. So just on a surface level, I thought the choice of song was really dumb and weird. They chose Here We Are Now, and
like
here
Teen
we are,
Spirit.
Nirvana. Yeah, smells like Teen Spirit. which is just, it was just weird and it didn't make a lot of sense. And the lyrics were too obvious. Like maybe I'm just a person who listens to the lyrics and other people don't, but it's a pretty iconic song. I'm sure they
Oh,
had to
yeah.
spend a lot of money just to get the rights to do a cover of the song. And
Hollywood is still about those slow, sad
yeah, and like,
covers. They love them.
like the version, I thought the music, the tone and the vocals made sense. The song did not. So I was
Okay.
just immediately distracted by why would they choose it? They're not entertainers. This is a very strange choice. Just doesn't make any sense to me. So that was distracting to me as from like a sound design perspective.
Okay.
And then like the other part, they did this like blurb and like it I they didn't give me an origin story for Black Widow, and I want a friggin' origin story. I want to know who she is so I understand anything about her enough to care. And they just like montaged through the entire thing that I was supposed that like explains her whole backstory. That basically is like, this is what happened to these girls then.
Yeah.
And
Wonder if they just think it's too dark for Marvel. Like
that was,
I think Marvel's maybe scared to go there, so they're like, "This is as dark as we can go." So here's your
you
montage.
know, here's my thinking is either go dark and deal with the thing that you're touching on, or don't freaking touch on it because then it feels like it's been trivialized. Like we understand that this is an issue, so it feels like they have almost like tokenized it for a film because they didn't have the courage to really get into it enough to give it any sort of emotional impact, which sucks because it is like, it's horrifying. It is horrifying and it is a real issue. And they just poked at it just the lightest amount. And like, I just think they have managed to do a much better job in other films of addressing more serious, serious issues. And they just absolutely dropped the ball on this one. And so for me, it's like, either do it or don't. But like, I get that it's like dark, but I don't know. I get why I understand.
That's so frustrating to me, honestly. Dark, yeah.
But like at the same time, this just didn't feel like I didn't need this movie at all. This seemed like a pointless movie to me, other than to maybe set up Florence Pugh as a character, her character later on as like a new Black Widow revisited sort of thing. Other than that, I didn't see the point in it. It still didn't make me care about Black Widow because like then you get into the whole story doesn't make any sense, Larry. They're like okay, so you start off and they're like, oh look, they have this little family and then they get into it and you find out that like maybe they knew it was fake the whole time, or the little girl, the 6-year-old, didn't know it was fake the whole time, but maybe Natasha knew it was fake the whole time, but they only had it fake for like 3 years. But then they formed this little family over the course of 3 years. And then like, for whatever reason, they feel bad about it now. And I'm supposed to believe that Rachel Weisz's character didn't know they were grooming these girls to be super soldiers, and then was like, oh, I had no idea. Except she also was supposed to be a like Red Room super spy person thing. She had no idea that they were going to use those mind control things on the people they'd already been psychologically brainwashing. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why the villain dad character cares about these girls now. Like, they never get into that. He's funny, but I don't care about anything he has to say the entire time.
That was my thing. They don't even have, like, whenever they try to do a serious discussion, because this is a lot of shit to unpack. Like that, especially the dad, the mom, the Rachel Weisz character, at the very least in that intro, was kind of telling him, I don't want to go back. I don't want to do this. At least, so cognitively, something in her was thinking, I don't want to go and take the kids back to that. But he was like, nah, I'm bored. I want to go back. He's the one who lures them to get drugged and taken. And he doesn't really show remorse for what he did. And even in the jail, even when he first comes out and they're like, yeah, I can't have kids because, you know, they gave me an involuntary hysterectomy. duh. And
Trivializes it. He's
he
like,
just
blah, blah,
trivialized it the whole
blah.
time. And then he's like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You've killed so many people. And he continues to just trivialize everything. And on the turn of a dime, he goes in to talk to like Florence Pugh's character and he sings that song back. And suddenly it's like a revelation. Everything is okay. Like that's the big apology. And it's not enough to me. Like it's
Yeah.
just not
It-
enough. He was, I mean, he is a big part of these girls' trauma that their life was.
yeah.
And he does nothing to really reprimand that at all.
Also,
And
I
they're
don't
just racial
know.
fights, really.
I also don't know why they were a family for 3 years. She was like, oh, it was a psychologically selected, optimized time period. I'm like,
Oh, for Natasha's little thing.
the mother was explaining that like they picked those three that was the most they explained this
Because they
small
had to
this
get
family
something.
unit
Like
for 3 years.
he was like spying out to get something like that
Oh,
little
that
disc.
okay.
He
I
was
get
like he was spying out to get the
oh
disc and then
strategic.
burn down the facility with anything of
So
evidence in it.
them having the little girls, that it was just to make an ostens. Okay, now that makes
Yeah.
more sense to
Yeah.
me. All right, it makes a little bit more sense to me because I
But the
missed.
fallout just didn't. The fallout, there
You
wasn't
watched it
enough
twice
fallout.
though, Larry. I didn't get it. Now it makes sense. I'm like, oh, so that's why. So they
Yeah.
did know the whole time that it was fake because they're
Yes.
right. They took all the pictures of the holidays.
Yeah, all in a
So they
day.
knew that it was fake.
So Natasha knew for sure because she had already been through the training to
Yes,
be
the
like a
little
little Black
girl
Widow.
must have been like 3 or
Yeah, she was
whatever.
so little she didn't really connect it or understand what was happening, I guess.
What I still don't quite
And she
understand.
connected to them, so she started to obviously attach feelings to these people taking care of her for 3 years as a small child.
I still don't understand like why she didn't understand. She's like it was real to me. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
I mean,
know.
I think she's like the emotions were real to me. Like
I
I loved you, and especially with Natasha, because this is what else is unclear: is once they go, that man has them split Natasha and Yelena up, but they also make it seem like they still had contact, like they were
I
still
just
part of the same group. So were Natasha and Yelena still like able to keep their sister bond while they
yeah.
went through the rest of the Black Widow? We don't know. We don't
I
know because it's
also
not clear
like
in the montage.
don't understand the like she thinks she killed this guy when she joined Shield. So then she leaves and she never comes back to check on her sister. She never looks into like what happened to her sister, what's going on. There's just this like, oh, you weren't my sister at that point in time. So, and again, they don't
They
really
like
explain any
they
of this
do
at
a
any point
real
in the
quick
Marvel.
line. They
Yeah.
throw a quick line. Florence Pugh tells her that at like one point, and Natasha just kind of rubs it, like brushes it off, and we don't revisit it. And
Yeah.
that's the whole film: is we address like these little points of like, hey, you suck, you abandoned me, hey, you drugged me and sent me into trafficking, hey, you did all these terrible things that screwed me up for life mentally. But then it's just like, oh, brush it off and move along. Like, oh, okay, we're not actually going to deal with any of the dark stuff that was brought up in this film.
You know what? Honestly, would have like just made more sense to me if they were both. It would have made more sense to me if they were the biological daughters of the villain and this evil scientist, and they willingly sold their daughters off to be Black Widows because they would become these amazing killing machines, and then they have to like think about it afterwards. Adding in this whole element of they were like taken and they were also, I mean, I guess they're trying to like address this like girls being abducted sort of thing, I guess, but adding in this element of like, oh, a biological parent, and oh, I don't know who my biological parent is. They burned my birth certificate, so I have no idea who. But so this is the only family that I knew, and it's like it just doesn't. It doesn't. None of it reads for me. None of it like logically follows through.
And you're right. It makes more sense to forgive. Like, these are random people at the end of the day that you have no connection to.
Random
if it's
villain.
your mom and dad who sold you off, you're going to be hurt and you're going to be angry, but you're still going to have this weird wanting for them. So you're going to forgive them. You know, you'll be easier to like want to move past that with these random people that once again you had no connection to, you've lived your whole life without, and now there's really no reason to like want to pull back to like be this little family. I mean, it's very strange. I don't know. I didn't That's why the movie's so frustrating, because I think there's a lot that could have been great. Like this could have been a great film, and they set up a great idea.
They
It just is the
out,
execution just wasn't there. They never went there.
Out.
Yeah, they never went there.
They just they were afraid to make it too dark, so they didn't make it dark at all, and then they leaned too hard into this comedy direction, which made nothing make sense anymore.
Yeah. And so, really, like, Florence is the best comedy. Like David Harbour is fun at moments just because he's like goofy, but
and we'll get into this.
Comedic timing undermined a lot of the stuff that happened.
And we'll get into this. I generally prefer the funny Marvel movies, but in this case, the comedy absolutely undercut any of the logic of the rest of the film, and kind of like don't try, unless do a black comedy. If you're gonna do a comedy that deals with something that's like dark and fucked up, do a black comedy and just go for it. Don't try and half-ass the darkness and kind of shift it off to the side and make it more like a comic book version of darkness, so that it's still a family-friendly film. Like either make the choice or not. And I think that you can do. I think there would have been ways to make this make a lot more sense. Yeah. It was like it wanted to be a bunch of different things, and then thus managed to be none of those things.
Yeah,
it wanted to be a comedy. It wanted to be light. It wanted to be like a drama about family. It wanted to talk about this child trafficking problem, and then basically drop the ball on all of them. It was still funny, but
this was the first time, because there's a Marvel formula that's been established with the jokes. Like it'll be like action set piece, or things joke. You have to drop in jokes in these Marvel films every so often, it seems. That's like a rule, or unwritten rule, or maybe it is written, that there have to be jokes throughout, because pretty much every Marvel film they drop in jokes as we move along. This is the first time where it truly took me out, and I think it's because, unlike most of the other films, we are dealing with a dark subject that actually hits close to our actual world. Like it feels like it's saying something about our real world in a way. And other films like Black Panther obviously deal with such things, but they didn't drop the jokes in the middle of them addressing those. Yes. They put them in other areas, but they never just like undermined the serious topic with the joke. And I think they did that quite a bit here. Yeah. And that's why the Marvel formula didn't work in this instance for me. And it's the first time where it truly, the formula itself was glaringly misplaced for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, I think they really undercut Natasha's death yet again, and kind of undercut her importance. I know a lot of people think this celebrates her importance to the Avengers. I really don't. I don't personally. I mean, maybe other people did. I don't know. I didn't.
It didn't. It wasn't about Natasha. It was about this.
Well, she got upstaged in her own film as well.
Yeah, it was about her dad and this weird family drama and her sister, and like it wasn't about her. We did not get a Black Widow origin story. I still don't freaking know what that deal is between her and Hawkeye. I have a vague recollection of like. I have a vague idea of like, oh, he helped her get out of the Black Widows, which sounds like a cool fucking movie. And I would have probably preferred that, to be completely honest, to this. Like, why? I don't understand why.
They literally said, we will find out what happened in Budapest. And I guess technically we did, but nobody wanted Natasha to just tell us. Nobody wanted to just hear her say it in her movie. We wanted to freaking see it.
Give me a flashback, something, man. Like, honestly, it was just such a weird choice. Like, oh, we're going to focus on this family drama. This is a Marvel film. What the fuck are you doing? It's an action film. Like, I understand that maybe they're trying to like do some different things and like move into some other ideas, but like do what works and don't get lost. This is like it was like they wanted to have like an indie family film.
The Guardians of the Galaxy is your mismatch family. Like that's all you need. We don't need another one. This is more family. We don't need it. We already have it. We're good. And they did it great. So leave it alone.
There also would have been ways to do this in a way that it worked and it just didn't, right? Like I said, I enjoyed the concept of a villain, of an old ass villain and his like family. Like that alone would be a cool movie concept on its own. But in the context of the rest of like the Black Widow universe and all of this, it just doesn't work.
And
And
then our
maybe
villains
they're,
were kind of underwhelming too in this film. Did you
yeah.
think so, or did you like them?
Well, you just didn't have any. So you have that Draco person who you just don't really like. I don't understand any of his motivation other than he's evil and power hungry.
And likes to control girls.
Yeah, and it's just not a very good, like, it's just not very good or compelling motivation for a villain. Taskmaster is more interesting, I guess, but also not at all because it's again like another character that doesn't have any free will. So that
and
is
she's
weird.
like a personality list. Like they make Taskmaster, they void the character of any personality, which is not the case like in comic books and video games. Taskmaster speaks and has a personality, but they were so focused on reveal that they obviously couldn't have Taskmaster speak, or else it would start giving away clues of like, oh, well, okay,
woman,
woman immediately. But so she kind of was a boring villain. I mean, she has kind of cool set pieces. There's a couple cool fights that Taskmaster has, but there's so much potential with the idea behind Taskmaster that just isn't handled.
So yeah, that's so I am not. So my husband has read like all of the Marvel comics, and he's like a total dork, and he like leans over and tells me things that are like the inside nerd Easter egg things as I'm like watching the movie. But he did tell me like the cool thing about Taskmaster is that Taskmaster, which they didn't really explore in this movie, is actually really cool because it's got all of the other powers that the Avengers have. So it's got the shield like Captain America, except instead of bouncing off of things, it just like slices right into him. She just does arrows like Hawkeye. She also has like these blaster things that are like Iron Man. Like she basically, and she can fight in the exact style of Black Widow. Yeah. She's also crazy strong, maybe not as strong as the Hulk, but like, so she's got all these sick ass powers and they don't really explore them very much, which is kind of, I imagine is disappointing from like a watching the reading the comic books standpoint. He did think it was very cool and he was completely caught off guard by it ending up being a woman. I was not, because I am wise to cinematic plot devices and was like, mysterious daughter blown up and they're not showing us the face of this character. I wonder who that's gonna be.
I mean, people's theory before the film came out was that Rachel Weisz was going to be the Taskmaster, because most people were like, they're trying to make it seem like this is a male, but I'm pretty positive this is a female in this suit. Theories had already pegged this is a woman, but they were thinking Rachel Weisz, and I still was kind of thinking that throughout the movie because it's like she disappeared. We don't ever hear or see about her after she goes into that van. Maybe she is Taskmaster, but then they get captured. I was like, oh, okay, no, it for sure is the daughter. But so I was thinking, I wasn't sure, but and then we get that post-credit scene, which I love and I hate. So here's why I hate it. Because again, I think after Endgame, the Avengers are sad about Natasha dying for like maybe 2 whole minutes. We get the Hulk throwing the bench, we get them making sad face, and then we move on and almost don't speak about her or really her death has no impact.
We only care about Tony Stark because he saved us all.
Only care about Tony Stark in this film. She doesn't get a funeral. She's not even included in the Tony Stark memorial. Like we don't get an Avengers. No, it's just Tony Stark. Then we get something here. So because you're like, okay, so she has this new family. None of them cared that she died. We have this random guy that she's apparently been working with that we've never heard or seen of again, that she has this much better romantic chemistry than she ever did with Bruce Banner. This would have been the love story I would have wanted for Natasha. He was adorable. They had like fun little banter.
Yeah.
He didn't care about her dying. Like nobody else cared. Except Yelena. So we get this post credit where she goes to her gravesite, and it's touching. I thought it was a cute moment, but then it's undercut with a joke, and I almost screamed. We then hear somebody blowing their nose off to the side. I was like, okay, I wish we would have split this. First off, I would have been okay with this being like the 2, like they used to do, like one in the middle and one at the end. I just was like, really? We got 1 more minute of us recognizing Natasha's death before. Also, if this is in Ohio, Did Yelena make this gravesite herself? Because none of the Avengers, to my knowledge, maybe Clint, Hawkeye, knows about anything about Black Widow. She hasn't told them a damn thing about her life. I'm pretty sure none of them knew she grew up in Ohio for 3 years. Who made this gravesite for Black Widow in Ohio?
It's also a very weird, like teeny tiny little,
a tiny little headstone. They put on the headstone daughter, sister, Avenger. Why the hell would they put on daughter and sister? Once again, who made this? Because the Avengers didn't. They wouldn't have known anything about her being a daughter and a sister. Like, what? It makes no sense. Like, the gravesite itself to me made absolutely no sense. And I was like, what the hell is this? But
I was confused. I was mostly confused. I was like, where is this?
Ohio.
What kind of this looks like an old gravesite. Like, these are the types of gravesites where they don't bury people anymore. Yeah, why is this where her?
Very weird. But I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'll get past that. It was cute, but then we get it undercut with the joke. Then the second half, I loved. Now, I will say that when Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Val, shows up, I did love it. I was like, okay,
I love her. I love that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the like evil counterpart to Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury. Like, yes, please.
This is the first time Disney is like straight up advertising for a Disney Plus show. Like, instead of giving us a preview for the next movie, they gave us a preview into the Hawkeye series. It's already been confirmed. Florence Pugh is in the Hawkeye series.
Oh.
Clearly the villain of the Hawkeye series. So
maybe in the Hawkeye series, we'll finally learn exactly what happened to make her switch over to S.H.I.E.L.D. and not be brainwashed. Okay, I got to go back to maybe I would care about Black Widow more and think she was a lot cooler if I understood anything about how she escaped from this program that she was in. I don't know anything about her still. Yeah. I know she had a fake childhood and she cared a lot about her sister and she maintained her heart even though she was subjected to atrocity. And that is cool. That is awesome. But also, I don't understand why she maintained her heart. What was her explanation? Was like, pain makes us stronger. You told me that.
Yeah.
What does that have to do? That is first of all, that was some toxic shit that I was pretty sure we were all supposed to understand was some toxic shit of like, my girls are the strongest girls in the world.
Yeah, no.
Like the toughest girls in the like.
Yeah.
Okay, that's toxic because this guy then sold you off to become automaton assassins.
Yeah.
That you have to then like spend the rest of your life making up for the fact that you killed a bunch of people you didn't want to kill. Like what? It just doesn't make any sense. They don't. I don't think they. Here's the thing, Larry. I'm pretty sure what happened was they wanted Black Widow to be a fuck character. They wanted her to be a sexual object inside the context of the Avengers world. Yes. They had to have that eye candy.
They had to also have at least one woman. They were like, okay, we do need a female here somewhere. Yes.
Well, and also boobies, right? We have to have boobies. Obviously, that's why we picked Scarlett Johansson.
And that's why we do this pose like this.
This pose with the boobs, right? And we're not going to talk about that in the movie at all. We're not going to talk about the objectification of Black Widow the entirety of the film. And so they made this toy, they made this sex object, and then they retroactively were like, I guess we gotta like make her important to some extent. She died to save everyone, but we don't really care. She had a family that was fake.
Yeah.
And we don't really care. Like they just did a terrible job. They created this like sexy background for her and then did nothing with it. So like, it just sucks. I wanted a Black Widow super spy movie. I thought that would have been sick. I would have been super down for like spy, daring, intrigue. I'm even down for her to be like hot and then like the Famke Jensen character from
We're cool with ScarJo running around being hot, y'all. Like that's never the problem. The people always get it so twisted. That's not the problem. What you just explained is a great explanation of it. Like you have to have something else. Like they're always like, oh yeah, well we always get shirtless shots of Thor. Yeah, but Thor has a lot of other shit to do. Like Thor is a fully
Thor has a
realized
whole
character.
freaking arc. He's got a family that makes sense. He's got a family dynamic that makes sense. A brother. He evolves. He's got 3 movies outside of the ones that he's also in. Like we know tons of shit about Thor. We know tons of shit about every single Avenger except for her and Hawkeye. Which, like, I also don't care about Hawkeye because I don't know anything about him, and it's very baffling. And they joke about it.
Low
Like,
key, we've been joking that we hope that Yelena kills Clint in the Hawkeye scene. Well, because we know he's getting replaced, like because we have Haley Steinfeld is like the new hot girl in Hawkeye. She's being introduced, and everybody's way more excited about Haley Steinfeld. They're way more excited about the dogs that were on set that everybody is obsessed with now. And we're way more excited about seeing Florence Pugh come back. Nobody cares about Hawkeye. He's like literally the least interesting part about his own show coming up. So
poor guy.
Just kill
poor
him.
Jeremy Renner.
Yelena, kill him. We're cool. I'm fine with that. He should have died. He should have died in Endgame. Sorry about it.
He should have died in Endgame.
I know he had a family, but I don't care. He should have been the one to die in Endgame.
Whatever.
So that was our review for Black Widow. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave a comment here, wherever you're listening, on the YouTube page. Did you like Black Widow? Were we too harsh on Black Widow? We don't think so, but maybe
or were we exactly correct?
Or maybe we went too easy on it. Let us know.
Maybe it was a trash film. Maybe you liked it not at all instead of
you thought it was the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. Let us know all of those comments. Love, hate, and everything in between. And make sure to check back in a few days as we will be posting our entire Marvel Cinematic Universe ranking so you can see where Black Widow ends up. Also, make sure you're following us on social media at Cinema Snarks on both Twitter and Instagram. Ren, where can the folks find you?
At Ren Manley on Twitter and RenniePoo13 on Instagram.
Perfect. And you can find me at ChillyBoy YT on Twitter and ChillyBoy Productions on both Instagram and YouTube. So we love you all for your support of the podcast, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.